with a little help and a little wealth and a lot of love.
So, what's the real financial impact if you decide to make this decision and pull from your 401k? What's the impact on your retirement?
So the title of this episode, 401k down payment, and it's for a house. Is it a smart decision? So I am going to talk about some stats and some options here. So this is where our video editor, if you are listening and you are looking in YouTube, now podcasts, it may be a little hard to follow, and I may be looking down on the YouTube, but hopefully my face won't be shown. So I put together 3 options. What is the impact? Mm-hmm. So let's use some assumptions. The average house cost in America is $350,000. Okay, so I know this is just average scenario, guys. Like in Charlotte, it is well north of that. Mm-hmm. Other places in the United States, it may be way below that. But the average house is $350,000. I'm a big fan of a FHA loan, which is a Federal Housing Association loan. I think I said that right. You can put only 3.5% down. So if you are listening to this, I think real estate is one of the best places to actually ascertain wealth. You know this because you're married to me, but there's a lot of options we have on our table. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the wealth building that we have is through
Real estate.
So
that's for another episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So of the $350,000 of your home, if it's 3.5%, you have to put $12,250 down. That's that 3.5%. And so let's look at an investment scenario of 6.5%, which I believe is a little bit on the higher side. So for example, our portfolio is 10% plus every year. So if you put $100,000 in, you invest in the stock market, you invest what your 401k allows.
You're saying that's your kind of rate of return?
Rate of return,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good. So let's just say 6.5%.
Okay.
And then, so let's look at a few options. There's 3 options here. And I'm going to slow this down. If this doesn't make sense to you, slow it down because...
I was going to say, we're talking lots of math and statistics.
We're going to talk math today, guys. Yes.
So
if you get off on that, great. If you don't, you need to listen to it because you probably need it more than anybody else.
So give us the specifics and then we can kind of simplify it afterwards.
Yeah. So those are the assumptions. So $350,000 for a house, 3.5% for FHA. We're talking about taking $12,250 from your 401k. That's how it applies to this episode. Mm-hmm. And let's say the opportunity cost is 6.5% of your investment. So option 1 is withdrawal.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think withdrawal means?
Just taking the cash or the money out of your 401k?
Exactly.
Okay.
Nuts.
Fast
Nuts, Emily MD. Nuts. All right. Yep. All right. So if you withdraw $12,250 from your 401k,
okay.
Let's say that you have an income tax of 25%. Okay. So let's just say that's not where we're at, but let's just say an average scenario.
Yeah.
You also have to pay what? I said this earlier.
I can't remember.
Penalty. What's the penalty? 10% penalty.
On top of...
Remember, when you withdraw from your 401k, you always have to pay a 10% penalty. Okay. Not always, but there's some exceptions. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, if you're deceased or if you're through a divorce, if you're disability, if you have hardship or foreclosure, you don't have to pay that 10%. But we're only focusing on this part of the 401k. I could talk about this when there are 2 hours about 401ks, but we're only talking about this from a house payment, right? Okay. So you pay what? What's the penalty?
The 10% penalty.
Exactly. So what's our income rate in this scenario?
You said 25%.
Right.
So you're paying 35%?
Bingo. That's right.
Okay.
So if I take $12,250, which is 3.5% of the normal house, what do you think my cost is altogether to take money out of my 401k?
I don't know specifics.
Right.
But
So you...
I need a calculator.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 35%. So 35%, it's going to cost you $4,387.50.
So on top of what you're already putting down on the down payment, this is just...
We're assuming that you're taking the down payment from your 401k.
Yes. So that's
which is $12,000.
Just to take it out of your...
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
All right. So how much is it costing you? So $12,250. plus the $4,300.
So over 16,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's cost you $4,000 to access these funds. Withdrawal. Okay, that's option one.
Okay.
That's all the hidden costs. These are real numbers, guys. This is a real scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. Option two, loan. You can
Which is
take,
kind of traditionally what people decide to do, correct?
if you remember Mind and Money Matters, 2.5% take advantage of loans against their 401k.
Okay.
2.5%.
Yeah.
36% of people take money from their 401k. They withdraw it.
Okay.
So they're subject to that 10% penalty and their income tax level. Was that 25% in this episode? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So loan. So now you have to make sure all this is eligible. So some of your employers may not be eligible. So what you do is you got to reach out to your HR department. You got to reach out to your loan administration, and you have to talk to them to see if you're eligible. That's the step one, right? So I'm looking at my paper here. Now, when you take a loan, there could be an origination fee. Do you know what an origination fee is?
No.
Okay, well, you bought this house
Okay.
in your name, and you had a mortgage officer, and you like the mortgage officer, like Russ, for example. If Russ, if you're listening, shout out to you.
Yeah.
How does Russ get compensated? It's a percentage of a loan. It's his fee to originate the loan. He gets all the paperwork. He does the syndication. He does the validation. It's a whole process there.
Yeah.
It's usually 1%. What's 1% of 12,250? You don't have to do this. I've already done it. It's $122.50. So it's not free. So there's usually like 1%, and then what's interesting about getting a loan for your 401k, you are charged interest. It's a loan, right? But you're borrowing against yourself.
Okay.
Who does that interest go to, do you think?
The government?
No. It's a good guess.
I don't know.
Relax.
Your employer?
No, yourself. So recap that for me.
Oh gosh. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit lost in the weeds.
We lost about. So you're borrowing $12,250 for $350,000. This is our second scenario.
Okay.
And you have a loan origination.
And this is a loan. This is not the same thing as a
Withdrawal.
getting a mortgage loan. This is a loan against your
401k.
401k.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
So it's a different product altogether.
Yes, essentially yes.
Okay, so you're paying the loan officer.
But I was using that example not to confuse you. That you're paying the loan officer for this, but you're borrowing against your 401k. Let's just focus on your 401k.
Okay.
So you're borrowing from your 401k. It's 1% usually. So you have to pay interest on a loan. That resonates with you, right?
Yes.
And you're borrowing from
course.
your 401k, right? So what does that mean?
So you're paying interest on money you've already saved?
Yes, that you're getting warmer. But where does the interest go?
You're basically loaning money to yourself.
And you have to
And
pay
you're paying
interest
interest
on it.
on it.
Right, but where does that interest go?
I don't know. Where does that interest go?
It goes to yourself. So you have to borrow. So check this out. So you borrow.
It's so confusing.
No, it's not confusing. It's
To
not
me,
confusing.
it is.
It's not confusing.
confusing.
So you borrow against your 401k
Okay.
and you pay interest. You pay that interest to yourself. And then in this example, let's say the interest for 5 years, which usually is 5 years that you have to pay it back. That's why probably people don't do loan, because you do have to pay it back. You have to pay yourself back.
Yeah.
And that one, let's say it's $1,000, you pay yourself interest on that. And usually it's prime rate, which you probably don't know what prime rate is. It's what the rate is right now. And it's 1% higher than that. So you're paying that. But the good news is, guys, you're paying to yourself.
So it's
Exactly.
not like you're just wasting money.
Well, I don't want to get into that, but you're on the right track.
Okay.
So you borrow against your 401k.
You're at least not paying interest to another entity.
There you go.
Gotcha.
You're
okay.
getting it. You trucking?
I'm
Trucking. No, guys, this is probably my favorite.
I'm picking up what you're
Are
putting
you
down.
putting that? Yeah, this is
Okay.
probably my favorite episode because this is real numbers, and I know people who've done this. And remember, we're practitioners, so what we talk about on these episodes,
Yeah.
we'll tell you if we're not, but if we're a practitioner in this example. So let's say the interest is $1,000, and then you pay the origination, which is $122.50. So in net, you pay $1,122.50 plus the $12,250 you loan against your 401k.
Okay.
Okay, so that's roughly about $13,000 or whatever. So option one, just to remind you, it was $16,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so option three, I'm a big fan of this. It's called opportunity cost. What's opportunity cost?
So you're spending money in one area, but you're taking that money from something else.
Yeah, I like it, but just to punch that home, when you take $12,250 out of your 401k to put down on a home, you're missing out on an opportunity. What's the opportunity?
The interest?
Exactly, the compound that you can get from your investments within the 401k. You trucking?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Yeah, like my thing is like, all right, guys. Like I'm putting Emily in the spot on purpose because this is not hard. This is just terminology and math that turns people off and people may be intimidated by it. It's not that hard. And we're going to go through this again and summarize this because this is powerful, I think.
Yeah.
So based upon that, let's say that, remember the 6.5%, would you say earlier? Rate of
return?
Right. The 6.5% rate of return. You're familiar with this because we broke down your shit.
Yeah.
All right, 12,250. Your 6.5% in 5 years, you can gain $3,360. So that's your opportunity cost.
Yeah.
In 5 years. In 10 years, it's 8,000. This 12,000 will be 15 in 5 years. This 12,000 will be 20 in 10 years.
Yeah. So that money that you took away to put on a down payment on a house could have earned you more money
Exactly.
over the long run, just
Exactly.
sitting there in your 401k.
Exactly. But wait, there's more. But
Okay.
But
Yeah.
think about this. You have to look at this all angles. How much is rent? The average
Depends on
house
where you are.
Exactly. But the average household for rent is $1,500 to $2,000, right?
Gosh, especially now, yeah.
Exactly. And here in Charlotte, it's way more than that. But I'm trying to be conservative. I'm trying to be honest and real with our numbers. This is 2-bedroom, two bath. And you're probably like, where's a house that's $1,500? Guys, just bear with me. This is the average scenario. $350,000 is probably not an average scenario where you live in your house, especially if you're in California, in Charlotte. So let's say that some assumptions here too, and you have to weigh this all out. You ready? So now that you have the foundations here, you have option one, option two, which is withdrawal and loan. And then you have the opportunity cost of missing out of that money. But let's say you just do it and you put money in that house. Real estate on average, 2% to 8% every single year. Unless you're, a recession, it could happen.
Yeah. We
So
know
the-
you're a big proponent of real estate
Right.
investment.
I am. And so you have to look at it from all angles. So let's say I pull money out of my 401k, but then I put it down payment on a house or do a loan withdrawal, whatever. We'll get into that in just a second. And then I appreciate in 5-10 years the 2 to 8%. So there's an opportunity cost because then if I'm rent, I don't get equity, right?
Yeah.
There is a
Just throwing away money by renting.
I agree. There's $3,176.63 that you are missing out. Opportunity cost of renting versus owning equity in 5 years, based on that 2% and 8%. And arguably, and we'll talk about this maybe in another episode, but how does interest work and how's your principal? You pay all the interest usually up front. If you look at your student loans, you pay let's say your payment is $1,600. $1,400 is probably the interest, and the $400 is the principal. They do that because it's risk for them, right?
Yeah,
So there's other ways to look at this, but I'm trying to simplify this. So, what's the title of the episode?
So, taking money from your 401k, is it the right choice?
Is it the right choice?
So after all of that, the minutia, the details, the statistics, break it down for us a little bit and tell us, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a lot of information.
It was.
There's a lot of information for me as someone who doesn't have a finance background.
That's right.
So break it down for us. What does that mean?
All right, remember the 3 options we put out there? The first option was what?
was just taking out the cash
Exactly.
from the 401k.
And so taking out the cash of the 401k to put down payment is $12,250, which you talked about. It costs you $4,300 to take that money out. Tax at 25% and the 10% penalty. Taking a loan only costs you $1,122.50. However, the opportunity cost of the equity, if it increases 2 to 8%, is $3,176. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I ever would recommend this. I do think in some situations, ding, 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 it actually is not a bad decision. If you take a loan out on your 401k, you're paying yourself interest. Yes, you can miss out on the $3,000 in 5 years and $8,000 in 10 years because there is compound interest. It all is all based on your specific situation. And, and you can't, don't do it from a psychology perspective, but sit down and do these numbers to make sure it makes sense to you. So I do think it's not a bad idea to explore this option if you take a loan out. Remember, 2.5% of Americans are taking loans out of the 401k. Majority of them are just withdrawing the money.
Just the cash, yeah.
I do not recommend withdrawing the money. I just don't, because you pay $4,000 to get $12,000. What is that? 30% of that's 35% of your cost that you're pulling out.
Yeah. So
you don't want to do that.
Do you have any other guidance on maybe how to minimize what's the financial impact on your retirement?
Yeah, I do actually. So I honestly think that if your back's against the wall, and I will say in Charlotte, I didn't talk about this. So there are limitations. So whichever is less, it's $50,000 or a certain percentage based upon your portfolio. So you have $400,000 in your 401k, you can't take $200,000 put it on the house. There are exceptions here, right? So you have to manage through that exception and understand what your plan offers. A lot of people don't know that, but that's something that you can't take more than $50,000 out. That's pretty standard. My recommendation is, in an environment that we were in about 2, 3, 4 years ago in COVID, 4 years ago at this point, interest rates were 2.5%. There were houses everywhere. And let's say I don't have enough money for the down payment. If I would have took a loan out on my loan and put money down on this house, it would have been a perfect scenario if I didn't have the money, because the opportunity costs, this place has appreciated over 300,000 plus. This is not normal, but by the way, you have to know your local market. So again, don't send, I'm going to send a clip to somebody. No. You got to understand your local market.
But we're in a different economy now.
We are in a different economy. So interest rates are a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So you have to look at that. But I do think that taking a loan out against your 401k, there are all stipulations with this. You have to pay it back in 5 years. So let's say that you pay this back. If you are terminated from your job, usually in the stipulations in the 401k contract, you have to pay it back in full. So that's something to think about, guys. If you leave your job, same situation. But you have to understand your 401k plan. Your HR department, your administration should be able to help with that. So I'm not saying this is all risk-free. So based upon the 3 options, I would say if you do it, do the loan route. Don't take the money out. It just costs too much. Just save $200-$300 a month. And I'm only saying this if you're in this situation. Do DoorDash, do Uber, wait tail, do something, but don't take it out of your 401k. And yes, you may have families, you may have things, but I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey says you have to live like no one else to be like no one else. And yes, it's a hard time right now, but it will get better. There's always a rainbow in the thunder. Thunder, rain, storm.
The rainstorm.
There it is. So yeah, that's what I recommend. So I do think that there are some stipulations, and all that.
Yeah. And it's always such an attractive idea. I think especially if you've worked for the same company for a while and you see that money there just sitting there.
Right.
But a lot of us who don't have that financial background don't really think about what the implications are. So I
Well,
think,
some people don't even know that you can borrow from your 401k.
Yeah,
That's my message to you guys. And the purpose of this podcast, number one, it's a recorded date night. We are having drinks. This is date night for us. We dress up. This is fun for us. But at the end of the day, it's asking the right questions and knowing your options. That's the purpose of what we do. That's why we're trying to do
and
this.
some of us don't. I will say I always hated statistics in medicine, and you have to learn it because you have to learn how to read peer reviews and know what the statistics mean and is it statistically significant. And to me, it's just like a headache. And so those things always are just so overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And I feel incompetent a lot of times when I'm trying to make financial decisions. And so all of that can get so confusing. But when you break it down and you actually compare the specific, what the long-term loss is, what the long-term gain is, I think
Which is what word?
Opportunity cost.
Woo, woo.
Then I think it really resonates. I do. I think it makes you think twice. It makes you. It's a hard world out there, and
Right now, yeah.
yeah.
It
So
is.
I think
It is.
it's
Know your
important-
options,
Yeah,
people.
it's important to know your options
Ask
so
the
that
questions.
you can have a happy life, but do it in the right way so you're not completely sabotaging your future.
That's right.
your
That's right.
retirement.
That's right. And so
That's the whole point of this wealth part of the podcast.
that's right. That's the whole
Really.
point. Absolutely. A lot of people don't know that they have that option. And you hear my recommendation. Don't pay 35% to take money from your 401k withdrawal. Please don't do that, people. That's taking $4,000 out the window and going, wow. Don't do it. No, don't do it. Don't do it. And, do anything else besides that. And you may not have an option. You may not have a choice. This is not, again, it's not a doomsday episode. We're not talking about disability or death or losing your job. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what to do in a situation to put a down payment on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love. That's the life that we live. Suits and scrubs.